Young ladies and gentlemen, good evening to everyone. You are once again welcome here on the Awakening of Consciousness Forum. So this is the headline of international news. The news is very, very good for the AES states. The news is very, very good. And so good that the news is causing panic at the Elysee. France, Emmanuel Macron is inconsolable. Because what is happening to the AES is exactly the opposite of what Emmanuel Macron had predicted, wished for. Indeed, he had like a sort of curse wanted to cast. This curse on the AES. Unfortunately, it is turning in favor of the AES. It is becoming a blessing. So, the AES states will soon benefit from another form of support from Russia. And all of this was decided during this very important meeting, which took place in the last 24 hours in Moscow. AES Russia meeting. Let's say AES summit or mini AES Russia summit, which was held in Moscow. One of the first very good pieces of information concerns the final phase of drafting the documents for the construction of the nuclear power plant in Burkina Faso in Mali. Since the first meeting, since the first Russia-Africa summit, President Ibrahimtraoré had asked His Excellency Vladimir Putin to help the ARS states achieve autonomy in terms of electricity and everything else. Putin said yes. At the time, Putin had said yes. Here is a young man who is truly visionary, who has a vision for his country. Putin had agreed. He was no longer there. There are delegations that come back to refine things. Now, the result is here. And that's on one side. But on the other side, the unified force of the AES, that is to say, the military force, the joint military force of the AES, will benefit from unprecedented support. This is what is already warming the hearts of the Tero leaders in the Sahel. Because we know that when Russia is involved, it is truly involved. When it is committed, it is committed. So young ladies and gentlemen, in the context of this video conference, this is of course what we are going to talk about. But before continuing, as usual, I ask you to share this video conference. Share it as much as possible in all possible groups. Especially give it a lot of likes. So, according to official information, Burkina Faso is completing work on the documents related to the construction of a nuclear power plant by Russia. The statement was made by the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Burkina Faso following the Russia AES ministerial meeting in Moscow. There you have it, it's a ministerial meeting. We could say it's a mini summit. The appropriate agreements should be signed in the coming weeks to move forward with the project, according to the minister. Always Karamoko Traoré. So, what should be noted is that the delegation from the Russian giant known as Rosatom, which handles energy issues on the Russian side, it's a delegation from Rosatom, the Russian nuclear giant that had already visited Burkina Faso. And Burkinabe experts have visited Russia several times, as I mentioned earlier. These visits aim to define the modalities and outline the scope of the project, according to the minister. So all that remains is to sign various documents to move forward. That's all. Field visits have been conducted, all calculations have been completed. Burkina Faso will therefore acquire its own nuclear power plant. Through this nuclear power plant, Burkina Faso will achieve energy autonomy. You see, if it weren't for a young president, a patriotic president, do you think this could happen in Burkina? The so-called presidents democratically elected have done nothing in power. What have they been able to do for Burkina Faso? That's why I ask all Burkinabe to share this video conference. It must be shared. They said here that we, Africans of the earth, from Burkina, will not succeed with this transition, which we have at the head of our state. A leader who only thinks of himself. Yet, no one has ever seen Ibrahim Traoré try to live in luxury. He doesn't even indulge in fashion. During the last Ramadan celebration, you all saw him. He dressed like a young man of 22 or 23 years old. As simply as possible. To avoid wasting money, he wore a single outfit. Not three-piece, two-piece. Yes, he puts himself on the same level as the people. Meanwhile, he is accomplishing great missions. If Burkina Faso gets its nuclear power plant, this issue of power, the power goes out, the power comes back, it's over. And it's when you have power that the country can develop. You know, those who are democratically elected do not want our countries to develop because it's a pact that these people sign with their international supporters, those who finance their political activities. Because if our countries are developed, once again, how will the others in the West survive? So they fight tooth and nail to keep us in the same stagnant situation, in the same precariousness. As long as we live in precariousness, they continue to develop. So, that's the first very, very good news. Share the video conference for the honor of Africa's sovereignty, for the honor of the work that Ibrahimtraoré is doing, and the other heads of state of the AES. So, the very, very good news, second very good news, is that the unified force of the AES is going to move to another stage. So, the head of Burkinabe diplomacy announces. He says that the unified force of the AES will experience Russian involvement. That is to say, the Russians will engage with the unified force of the AES. He says this. It will involve working on the training aspect. Thus, capacity building, exchange of expertise, support, but also on the logistics aspect. This is what is explained, isn't it, by the head of Burkinabe diplomacy. He says this. Russia has always been a leading partner for Burkina, Mali, and Niger. So, what does he say concretely? That is to say, Russian soldiers, Russian instructors will come to train the unified AES force. They will train them. They will strengthen their capacities. They will engage in exchanges of expertise. And then, as if all that were not enough, they will collaborate with the unified AES force in terms of logistics. Speaking of logistics, we are talking about military equipment. So, they will equip the unified AES force with the latest generation, cutting-edge military equipment that AES needs to effectively combat threats, and especially to establish itself as an indispensable force in Africa. This is the vision of Russia, which will soon be realized as the training sessions are about to begin. So, here is news that angers France, angers the Westerners, angers the imperialists, because they never wanted it. When they come to our countries, what do? And say, since you are not well trained, we will create positions called military advisor posts. They create positions within our military hierarchy and recruit them there, paying them. And the worst part is that they are the ones making all the decisions. If they do not authorize it, the decision cannot be made. Even if it is in the country's interest, they must authorize it. This means they are in our chain of command. They are the ones commanding the army. They are the ones commanding the army. But they come with deceit and say we have military advisors. As if you have no capability. But Russia, that's not what Russia does. If Russia wants to send people to train us, Russia sends people to train us. And then, our armies are autonomous. That's all. So, ladies and gentlemen, here is the international news headline. Please share it as much as possible. I will be back shortly with more news. This was the voice of your one and only samurai.